Hey everyone, it's the Grumpy Meeple coming back at you with another video in what I suspect will end up being a pretty long series of videos about Chronicles of Drunagor. This is going to be my organization guide to the game. There's a lot of stuff in this box, and at least initially, there wasn't a lot of guidance, like in the rulebook, etc., on how to store it or how to use the game trays and whatnot. They had put out a guide for that in as a PDF, and I will link to it below. But as you'll see, I ended up doing a little bit of custom organization myself, and there's some things that I want to call out specifically that might be confusing if you actually backed this game. There are some components that come in the core box that don't fit in the core box. And so let's get into it. So I'm going to pop this gigantic box top off if I can. There we go. Set that aside. All right, so as you come in, you've got basically your paper. You've got your character trackers. You've got your large tiles. There isn't really a dedicated spot for this, nor is there a call out in the guide on where to put them. So I just threw them on top there. There may be a better spot as we go through. We may find that. Your player guide, your blah, blah, blah. Still got to laminate that player guide. I don't know why. You know, for a game of this kind of, it's a gorgeous production. There are just a few little spots where there's some oddities. Like, I probably would have included like 4 of these at least, and I would have printed them on a little bit kind of thicker paper. Not a big problem. You can copy them yourself. But honestly, I have a feeling as I get into playing this game that it's going to be a bit of a gush fest. And so if I see something that I think could have been improved on, I'm going to call it out so that I don't seem like a total shill. But yeah, see, once you get past the paper stuff, you get into the main box. You've got your 4 empty hero trays. You've got 2 trays, and they're, this is a nice little thing. I didn't actually notice this before, but you'll notice the hero trays and the card storage trays, they're the same. They're identical, which is nice, actually, because it means you don't have to, you know what I mean? Like, they're interchangeable. So you could split the cards out more if you want to and kind of organize them differently. Or if you sleeve them and maybe they don't fit and maybe you only ever play with 2 players, you could throw some more cards in one of these. But also it did make it easier to organize because you don't have to find a specific organizer for it. But here I've got basically item and treasure cards and such. And then here I've got the class and the role cards and all of the kind of enemy cards. Set those to the side. Okay, coming in here, so here's where we kind of get our first kind of niggling little complaint. This thing is meant to store your tokens. And you can see it has these recessed areas built into the top, which is really clever, actually, to store the various tiles. And I really like that. But as a means of storing and organizing tokens is not going to work. You can see there are just these giant kind of, runners. And there are 352, I think, different small tokens in this game, something like that. They give you a count in the book. I didn't count that myself. I'm not that anal retentive. And this just isn't going to get it done, right? Like, this is you're just going to have them kind of thrown in here every time you play the game. You're going to have to like slot them back in. Not happening. So I did do my own custom storage for all the tokens, and I'll show you that here in a bit. And then the other thing too is that, kind of a weird thing, in the next tray you'll see they organize the darkness tiles, and the darkness tile tray, it's just not quite kind of deep enough. It needs to be not even that much deeper, but a little bit deeper, because first of all, it doesn't have enough room for all these single tokens. I spent 20 minutes trying to get it in there, and it just wasn't happening. So I just ended up throwing them in there. I know that there may be some additional storage for those in the stretch goals box, because another kind of weird thing that they did was they put stuff in the core box that doesn't go in the core box, like these are, to my knowledge, these are your kind of white cubes that represent locked skills, and these are an artifact of the old character boards where all the skills are printed directly on the board, and so you had to have a way of defining, well, which ones of these do I have access to and which ones do I not. Those character boards are not in this box. They are in the stretch goals box. So it's like kind of a weird thing where it's like they literally decided so late that they just ended up putting the cubes in, which is kind of weird. And so you don't store those in this box. You store them in the stretch goals box, which I still haven't even opened yet. But anyways, none of these things are deal breakers. This thing, you know, let me grab real quick. I'll show you what they should have done. Go to the gold standard here for token organization, Dice Throne Adventures. There you go. So another product that uses game trays, something more like this. There are considerably more tokens in this game, but there's also still room, as you saw when I opened this, there's room in this box for more organization. And I would have gone with something like this. If you're gonna put all these game trays in here, and you literally are already putting, you can see it's not even that much bigger, but it's compartmentalized and it organizes everything in a way that makes it playable. The organization that for the tokens that comes in the box for Chronicles of Drunagor is not, to my mind, playable, basically. Because again, every time you want to find, you know, a poison token, you're gonna have to go and like, oh, okay, and then when you're trying to clean the game up, you're gonna, like, not happening. It's gonna eat into your game time. But you know, these are small complaints in a very beautiful overall production. So next up, you've got this tray, which is nice. It organizes, it stores the character cards, which I'm leaving in the bag for now because I wasn't sure if they would kind of slip around in here if they weren't bagged. But it may be that you can pull it out. And then it's got organization for square tiles and then the kind of more rectangular tiles as well. So I really like that. Again, you know, with everything in here, basically, I think it could have been even just a few, like, microns thick, you know, deeper, because it sits in there but just barely. And so if we pull this out, we pop the top, here's where you organize all the darkness tokens, and again you can see, like, man, it's just like barely deep enough to kind of hold these things in place, like, boop, you know. Just CGS, if you reprint this and you're able to, I would just print this thing just a fraction of an inch thicker, deeper, so that, because right now you kind of, if you want it to be in there right, you really got to have them like lined up and put the lid on perfectly. And then the other thing too, there's nowhere near enough space for all those single darkness tokens. I will say, having punched everything out, This game has some of the best cardboard components I've ever seen. I didn't have a single bad, you know how you have those bad punches where you end up with those tags, you know, and so you end up ripping the art on the token and stuff like that. Like there are games that I love, like even like Core Space, which doesn't even actually have plastic tokens. It has these weird, like, I guess they're cardboard, but they're treated in a way where they feel kind of plasticky. Even that game, it's just like trying to get those tokens out is a nightmare. These all punched out perfectly, so kudos on that. So next up, we've got miniatures, and we've got our cubes, our action cube system. No complaints here. This thing basically works perfectly. It's even got a spot for the die there. Although again, like another oddity, this die is in the core box, but not referenced in the rules that I saw. And having looked at the storage solution for the stretch goal box, I know that it gets stored in the stretch goal box, basically. So that's kind of weird. Not really sure why that is. And then basically you've got your storage for your game trays and the rest of your miniatures here. So the trays that have the kind of raised element. And, you know, I didn't get a chance to show you this before, so I'll show you right now how this kind of tile system works. Because it's really freaking cool. So the idea is you would put that there. And you put that there. There's a little bit of glare there, but, and then he's moving around on there. Boop, boop, boop. And then what you have remaining in the box here is your big tiles and then your doors. These are all the doors that I was telling you about. They're folded. I'm not going to open especially this one because this is the last one because so it has like major spoilers in it. But the way that the doors work is it just slots in there. Now, you know, usually I just love like plastic doors and scatter train and all that stuff. And usually I would proxy this stuff out for something like that. This game gets a pass because the doors are so functional and they have such an interesting kind of use. But, you know, as you can see, like, this is really nice because this allows you to set up a dungeon crawler and then just move it, you know, and move it quite easily. Like, just get out of the way. I'm gonna play. My friends are coming over. We're gonna play Machi Koro tonight, so I gotta get this game off the table. If you set up Shadows of Brimstone with the whole tile set, and you're in the middle of a dungeon, it ain't going anywhere, right? It's gonna take up 3/4 of this table, and it is not movable. This game, you really could just kind of pull it off. So I really like that. I think the game trays idea, I think it was a good idea, and you can see how it incorporates the elevation, and they incorporate that into the gameplay in terms of the movement system and whatnot. And also, this was a really clever way of storing these doors, actually. This works perfectly. The only thing that concerns me is as you're getting more expansions and stuff, you're getting more doors, and I don't know that the expansions have this built-in storage, and there's not a whole lot of flex in there for more. So we'll see as I go through the other boxes. I've not had time to even open any of the other boxes yet, but as we go through it, we'll see if they account for that storage, and if they don't, maybe they'll consider doing so in the reprint Kickstarter, you know. So basically, those go there. So you can see it's just a little finicky because it's not thick enough. It's not deep enough. It wouldn't be finicky if it were just a little bit thicker. And if there wasn't room in the box, I would understand, but there is. There's a lip that there's at least, you know, like a good quarter of an inch there that you could still get some storage done. But, you know, overall, oh, and then, so I'll put everything that I store in the core box back in, and then I'll show you where I'm going to store everything else. But this whole thing does come together beautifully. And with a game of this size and scope, you know, it is really hard. I get it. There's just an insane amount of crap in this box, basically. And so you can see there's a considerable amount of room left, especially if I, you know, if you spread these books out a little bit or something, there's easily enough room in there to make all of those trays just that much thicker. Slide the box back on. It's a really nice box too. It's not like the Gloomhaven box. The Gloomhaven box, you know, is kind of notoriously shitty. It's like destined to fall apart. This thing is thick and pretty durable, so I'm not really worried about it falling apart. Sorry, I just banged my camera there. Okay, so for the rest of the tokens and some of the other stuff, I did end up having to go back to my old friend, the Stanley 25 organizer. I'll put a link to this as well in the details or the description. These aren't as widely available as they used to be. I don't know if they're actually still making them. Gosh, I sure hope so, because I use these a lot. As a matter of fact, I'll show you real quick. You can see, even if you just look at that wall there, you can see various Stanley organizers in use with the labels on them, and they're kind of slotted in. It's actually one of the reasons why I don't have Kallax shelves. So I'm in my unfinished basement right now, which is one reason. You know, when I get the basement finished, I might change things up. But also, these won't fit into a Kallax, at least not the way I want them to, which is like that, to conserve space. And so instead, I have these big kind of metal shelves that I got from Home Depot, which I work fine. Like they're actually in some ways probably superior to Kallax because they're much larger, I think, and deeper. And so I can have a whole second set of games behind, you know, the ones that are kind of up front, which is how I store all my expansions and stuff like that, all the boxes for the expansions, because I custom organize most of my games like this. But anyways, so here's your Stanley. What do I like about these things? Okay, so first of all, it is virtually indestructible. You would have to run this thing over with your car to damage it, basically. Maybe a baseball bat, you know, or a crowbar or something, but through regular play and day-to-day usage, even with kids running around, smashing everything they can get their hands on, this thing is not going anywhere. And it's just so versatile. So they typically come with 3 sizes of organizers. You've got the smalls, which, I mean, it's like it was made to store, you know, these little chits. What it's made to store is like nails and stuff like that. But I own like, you know, like 2 dozen of these, and I don't have a single one that I use to actually store anything manly like that. It's all cardboard trash. So, and then you've got the kind of medium-sized ones, and then you've got your large ones. And it's very rare that I come across a game that, if it doesn't have the kind of storage it needs, that this won't take care of it. It might take more than one. You know, stuff like Arcadia Quest. I have so much Arcadia Quest stuff that and Gloomhaven as well, because I have all the monster cards in these little medium-sized ones so that I can kind of organize them alphabetically and then just grab them. And, you know, I might be exposing myself to a little bit of ridicule here because maybe this is just too finicky for your average kind of person. But for me, the ability to set your table up, you know, have this stuff out, you know, oh, time to clean up. Okay. You know what I mean? If you ever even need to have them kind of out of the containers, which I don't know why you would. I don't typically. For my money, this thing's like $13, indestructible, comes with a ton of these things, although I am basically out of the small ones. It doesn't come with an infinite amount. And so what I have in here is all of the tokens basically separated out, just the way I like them, so that when I go to pull a poison token, I just go to the poison bin, you know. I really don't have anything. The only thing I have combined here is traps, I think, because there are these kind of, I think they're traps, at least they're kind of green traps and blue traps. That seemed close enough to me. I have treasure chests too, but I'm pretty sure that these get replaced by plastic in one of the expansions. So I've got all the tokens here. And then in here, I've got the initiative board. There is space for this in the core box, and I don't know, I might put it back in there, especially if I have to end up expanding this because of the expansions. If there are more chits in there, I'll pull this stuff back out. But for now, there wasn't a really great place for these bridges, which is another kind of piece of the terrain. And then for this either, it was just kind of floating in the box. So I just pulled it out and stuck it in here. You got all your bases in here, and you've got all of your darkness tiles just in the bag. And then I just fold it up. Boop. Closes. Nothing's under any kind of pressure. Nothing's going to get hurt. This isn't going anywhere. And you can just, you know, you just kind of throw it out on the... Just throw it out on the table, like literally you just come out, you're good. You got all your tokens ready to go. Again, you guys might laugh at that, but I do what I want. So that's Chronicles of Drunagor, organized. Really looking forward to getting this to the table after I unbox another 10 boxes. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later.